Colleen, we have any workshop discussion?
Yeah, we have 3 items for workshop, and Councilman Brennan, do you want to kick it off with the plastic bag discussion?
Thank you, Ms. Conley. As many of you know, with my environmental background and my position as the Borough Council liaison to the Belmar Environmental Commission, one of the things we've really worked on is trying to reduce the use of single-use plastic bags within the borough. The Environmental Commission sponsored a logo contest to raise awareness among students. We got a winner, and we went out and purchased recycled, reusable bags. We distributed them through the Belmar Business Partnership, was a very active partner. We're giving them out to our businesses on Main Street. There's been a lot of movement with that. They're definitely looking into partnering with us as far as purchasing more in the future. I think it's time, considering especially that the municipalities of Long Beach Township and Stafford Township have already passed their own ordinances prohibiting the use of single-use plastic bags within their towns. And I've gotten copies of those ordinances and distributed them to the other council members. I think it's time for Belmar to be the first town in Monmouth County to take this step. You know, you look at the numbers that are being pushed around. I can tell you here, this is an article that was in the Times on March 4th. The average American throws away 10 single-use plastic bags per week. And that the use here, the average use in Jersey is higher than that because there's so much more of it. The amount of plastic that gets used and ends up in the water and in the environment is measured in tons, trillions of tons worldwide. I mean, for us to make any real difference in that, well, I think we at least can start. A lot of it is more raising awareness. I think with the support of our business community, I think we should really look into taking this step.
Excellent. Tom, is there any technology or anything out there where science can get something that eats away at these plastic that gets into the water or in the environment? I mean,
no, unfortunately not. I mean, they have what they call biodegradable plastic bags. That's really kind of a misnomer. When we think of biodegradability, we think of like what happens to a banana peel if I leave it on the ground. Sooner or later, it just decays, becomes part of the soil. The nutrients within the natural matter become part of the soil and go back into the ecosystem. Plastic just doesn't work like that. Biodegradable plastic bags only break down under certain conditions. Particularly, they have to be in sunlight. So if you bury them in the ground, they're never going to break down. And when they break down, they don't turn back into nutrients that can be reused within the soil or within the air. They become just really, really, really small particles of plastic. That's what's happening in our oceans right now, and scientists are finding that plastic ends up within the life, the marine life, particularly the fish and seafood that we eat. So, and really there's no way to know at this point what those effects are going to be on the human population, but we're definitely ingesting that plastic. No two ways about it.
Tom, what are you suggesting to ban them or charge, have businesses charge?
Well, I'll tell you what they did, when I spoke with the business owners last year, because Rockport, New Jersey has an ordinance that involves businesses collecting like a nickel or a dime for any use of plastic bags. I spoke to the business owners here at Belmar. They really weren't in favor of that. They didn't want to have to bother with that. They said, if you want to get rid of plastic bags, just ban them, is what they said. And that's what Long Beach did, and that's what Stafford Township did, and that's what the state of California did. And you know, there's entire countries. India just passed a ban on plastic bags because their pollution problem is so bad. Ireland can't get a plastic bag there. Everybody sells reusable bags, and basically, it's kind of old school. When you go shopping, You just bring your shopping bag with you like my grandmother used to do. She used to bring her shopping bag to the store, and that's what she put her stuff in. You know, one of the things I like about Long Beach's ordinance in particular, I think that their definitions are really very well laid out. They define what exactly they're talking about. We're talking about single-use, usually branded, logoed plastic bags with handles. They're not talking about dry cleaning bags. They're not talking about the kind of bag that you use for purchasing produce. Like if you go to Klein's and get your fish over there, they have plastic bags that go in there. They don't ban those. They're really talking about that kind of thing where if you go into Rite Aid and you buy, you know, a thing of deodorant, a thing of toothpaste, they automatically just stick that stuff in a plastic bag, and you're going to use that for maybe 15 minutes from carrying it from the store to your house, and then the bag's done. Its useful life is over. And there's nothing to do but try to dispose of it, and there's no real way to dispose of it.
I don't see in any of these ordinances, you know, anything about enforcement on it.
In the Long Beach ordinance on the back page, 114-4 talks about violations and penalties. And it says a violation of this chapter shall be punishable as provided under chapter 1. General penalty.
Right, I looked under their general penalties.
They're pointing to their code, their ordinances, where it would be a code violation. Is my interpretation.
It struck me that it seemed to be like it was basically up to the judge. That there was a code there that the judge could apply. If someone commits a violation, the judge has to start. So it looked like it was like a $50 penalty to start with. So, and it would be on the merchant. It wouldn't be. It would not be on the person with the bag. It would be on the merchant.
So if somebody didn't use a reusable bag, they would have the option to have the paper.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Paper's fine. Paper is biodegradable. And one of the things I learned when I was in talking to all the businesses was that paper doesn't cost any more than plastic. That had always been my assumption, that plastic was preferable because of the price. The paper, I was told, costs the same as plastic. The problem with paper is they take up more space when you store them. They take up more space. Plastic bags are easier to store because you can put more in a box. It'll fit more in the box. It doesn't take as much square footage to store. You know, anything else, any other questions now? I mean, I've done a lot of work on this.
Is there anybody out there in the audience that would have an opinion on plastic bag ordinance? Yes, ma'am.
I would love to ban plastic bags.
There you go.
There you go. Is there any way, because I have the reusable bag, is there any way to remind Brian McGovern to bring it with him to the store? Because I always go with the plastic bag in it.
I had to start keeping mine in the passenger seat of my car. Until I got used to it. That's what I had to do. Now I remember.
I do love when you get out of the car at some food supermarkets, in the parking lot, they remind you to check your bags. Because you need that reminder.
We see one more, and then we have to go on to the next item. Ma'am, yes, the little girl has it.
Her speaker does.
She agrees.
See, she got your attention good, right?
Yep.
I think that the problem with paper bags is, you know, we can't produce trees quick enough to meet that. And also they're very durable.
Well, I mean, paper is, it's a renewable product. I mean, you can grow more trees. The problem with plastic is petroleum-based. It involves drilling for oil and then refining the oil into the plastic. Environmentally, the entire process is very harmful. But, you know, not for nothing, plastic's been a huge thing. My dad was one of the first people to work in the field of injection molding. He worked for a corporation called Celanese back in the 60s. And I can remember him bringing home, like, plastic bottles that you could reuse and all these products that he was selling. And it's been amazing what plastic has done. We could have gone to the moon without plastic, put it that way. But the problem is that plastic just really doesn't biodegrade, and it's really hard to recycle. It's fairly energy intensive to recycle the plastic. And anything we can come up with that will just reduce our footprint of using plastic and leaving it, we should do. And these plastic bags, single-use plastic bags, are by far the simplest thing for us to do. You know, you don't have to have a bag. I mean, I had to have a discussion with the clerk at a local store. Are you sure you don't want a bag? I was like, no, I have pockets in my coats. I can put my stuff in my pockets. I don't need to have a bag with this. I don't want a plastic bag. Thank you very much. You know, we just don't have to do that. And I think it's, you know, when you see how much we depend on clean water in our town, economically, you know, we're surrounded by water on three sides. Every time there's a plastic bag floating in that water, it makes us look dirty. And a way to stop that is to stop having bags like that given out in town. Are other people going to bring them into town when they come in? Absolutely. But we can do what we can by banning them ourselves, we raise consciousness. And we're not the only town doing it. And I wouldn't be surprised if before long the entire state bans. But because we're close to the shore, I think we're more aware of it. And I just think it's something we could do to make Belmar an environmental leader in our county and in our region. And I think we should definitely get on the bandwagon.
Okay, very good. Colleen, we have a big presentation here right now.
Yes, we can roll into that if you like.
Sure.
I'm going to do something I don't do very often, which is approach you and actually speak for a moment. That's okay.
Could you just give your name and address to
for administrator for Belmar. Doing something I've not done before in my time here, which is stand before you and present an idea that we will roll into a concept presentation. I'm going to introduce some gentlemen who are joining us from a development company called Brandywine. They are going to be presenting to you a concept for a new borough hall. I can tell you, and I have the benefit of many of you sitting up there having worked in this building at some point in time in your careers as an employee, that you can attest to the fact that this building that we sit in every day and that we deliver services to the public from, both from our police headquarters, our court, and our gymnasium and our admin team, was never quite the ideal fit, but we've made it work for a long time. This building was constructed in the 1950s. It underwent a renovation in 1984 to make it accommodating for borough offices and services. You see a lot of folks in the audience here tonight who work in this building every day. The fact that they're out here at a council meeting on a Tuesday night after hours speaks to why this project is so close to our hearts right now. We understand the nature of our taxpayers. We understand the stresses that are placed on everybody's pocketbooks. And so for us, for a very long time, the idea of presenting an idea for a new borough hall was something that we knew was beyond the finances of the borough. I don't necessarily believe that there's a threshold for a desire to bond, to build a new police station, to build a new municipal courtroom, even though they're sorely needed. And so when we were approached by Brandywine with a unique public-private partnership model, it really got us thinking. And that's what you're going to see here today. So it would be a true public-private partnership. Not that gets buzzed about in the newspapers and nobody really understands what it is. It would be truly public, the public contribution to the project would be the land. Most of this block, and I've laid out for you the blocks from the tax map, are publicly held. The borough would be contributing those parcels to a project that would be both mixed use, residential and retail on the ground floor, a parking facility, an actual parking deck that would provide parking for the residential component as well as for Borough Hall and the public, and a new Borough Hall that would house a police department, municipal court, and admin offices. And truly for me, the push through all of this is the Borough Gymnasium. Our gymnasium, as you all well know, is probably, other than the police department, the most often used part of this building. Whether it's the Belmar Recreation basketball program, whether it's seniors playing pickleball several days a week, whether it's Belmar Youth Club on a Saturday night with over 100 kids in that gymnasium, having a place to go and be with their friends and recreate. That gym is constantly being used. So we are presenting a model here today. It's a concept. This is your first blush look at the project. The concept is that the private housing and residential development and the retail that pilot payment that would come from that would offset any debt service to build a borough hall. The debt would not be borne on the borough, it would be financed through the development agency, Brandywine. And it would be an opportunity to create now this new public infrastructure investment of a borough hall, police headquarters, gymnasium, with no impact to taxpayers. Okay? The trade-off of that is the private development. Right? It's taking our development intentions to the north end of town where we have been focusing our time and energy through the Seaport projects. With that said, I'm going to turn it over and introduce our friends from Brandywine. I want to invite Steve Rizzo up to the mic and let him introduce his team and then take you through the presentation boards and get your input. Steve?
Everybody, Steve Rizzo, should I face this way?
Yeah, face the council, but just project.
First off, I want to thank you all for letting us join you tonight. We're very excited about this project. As I told Colleen, unfortunately our president, Eric Moore, due to illness and actually blew us back, asked me to pinch hit for him tonight. So we'll do my best to walk through all the details, but there may be some questions that come up that will have to be addressed by Eric in the future.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Keith Kaufman. I'm an architect, MK Architects. We work with Brandywine to facilitate putting their ideas into built environment.
There you go. My name is John Blumbo. I'm from the law firm of the first Patrick Cullen here, and I represent Brandywine.
Okay, ready to go? So here you're looking at a kind of aerial look down on the block. Just to orientate you, I'm doing this sideways here. Might want to come up here. Main Street is along this edge. We've got 6th Avenue, 7th Avenue, and River Road at the back. Okay. So where we are all sitting.
Colleen, could you just turn a little bit more so the audience
Sure.
might be able to see a little bit?
Yeah,
maybe that's
you
a
all
little
have
bit too
it.
much.
Well, we see we have.
Okay, we have it here. Yeah.
Right. All right, so stand right here. So we have Main Street, 6th Avenue, River Road, and 7th Avenue. Where we're all sitting right now is approximately right here. Okay? This portion here would become a mixed use, residential and retail on the ground floor, and 4 levels of housing above. So it would be a 5-story building. That housing concept, that residential concept, would wrap around down 6th Avenue and tuck in a little bit on River Road, providing for 206 residential units. These 2 access points here are into a parking garage that comes up 5 levels, the same level of the housing project. That would provide parking for the residential project, Borough Hall and the public use, and add approximately 50 spots. So it would be an increased capacity. And as council knows, every developer that comes here, we're asking them not to just meet current parking capacities, but to go above and add value added. So those 2 accesses would be here. Borough Hall would then be situated back at River Road and 7th Avenue. Everybody will know that there's a lovely little building there right now that houses our art center. Yes. We've been in conversations with Brandywine that investment in our community, that part of our community, would need to have a presence always, and they would come up, the idea is on Main Street, in gallery space on the 1st floor. So the Arts Council would actually have a walk-in gallery on Main Street, which is kind of cool. The Borough Hall would be 3 stories back here on River Road. It would be the police department, the municipal court, and admin. So where you come to pay your taxes, where you come to pay your water bill. Next door to that would be the gymnasium. And again, as I talked about the lifeblood of this building being the gymnasium, we communicated to our friends at Brandywine that it was very important to us that this be a regulation court, that this be a proper wood floor, that there would be locker rooms and bathrooms and proper place for our kids to play. So that's the concept here, and that's how we're utilizing most of this footprint to try to pull off this project that has to balance a private investment to offset the public infrastructure cost. Okay? So we'll take you back to this corner. We'll start here.
Just want to add
Yeah.
that, you know, at this point, this is still a concept plan.
Yes.
So obviously with the partnership, we do look for input, but this is what we had drawn up initially and, you know, still subject to change.
Yes. So focusing on the the public aspect for it, I'm going to bring you back to this corner, which is 7th Avenue and River Road. And again, these are initial concept designs. But this would be essentially standing back at 7th and Railroad, okay, looking towards Main Street. This would be Borough Hall, 3 floors, and a gymnasium next door to it. All right? And again, initial concepts. This is for you guys to react to and give us your thoughts. We recessed Borough Hall a little bit just to create kind of a small plaza entrance where, you know, public would feel welcome to come up and into the building. As far as what goes on what floor, we're not there. That would happen as we proceed to talk about how best to lay out the building. What floor is it best for the police department to be on? Parking access for the police department and the sally port would happen through the garage, at least initially in the concept that we're talking about now. Okay? And then the gymnasium stepped forward a little bit towards the road to give us that size that allow us to have the regulation court. We asked for certainly lots of sunlight, vaulted ceilings, try to get as much of the sunshine in there as possible. We wanted to try to, and again, this is so initial concepts, but we asked to play with brick to try to make sure that it looks like it fits in with our landscape and our downtown. We didn't want it to look ultra-modern. We didn't want it to look ultra-traditional, so we're trying to hit the right balance, but we're looking for input on that as well. And then this would be the first real glimpse of what the residential mixed use would look like. First concept. This here, we're standing back at 6th Avenue and River Road, looking up towards Main Street. If everybody can kind of get that perspective of it. Something that we expressed and Brandywine listened to and the architect listened to was that we didn't want it to feel like one mammoth building. We wanted it to have that feel that it would fit in our downtown and have different textures, different depths, different colors. And so this is their initial take on it. This look would also extend down the Main Street side of the project as well. Okay. Questions, feedback from council?
Sure. I'm going to go with what I most experienced with. Let's go to the gym,
Yes.
where we have that
I'm surprised that
rounded,
you're interested in that.
that rounded roof.
Yes.
Is that glass underneath it, or are there going to be windows?
What we're envisioning there would be, if you're familiar with a product or a manufactured product called Cowall, it's a translucent panel. It has a much higher insulating value than glass. What it does, it diffuses the light, so it's a kind of an even light rather than having at certain times of day, certain times of year, having sharp sun angles in there.
Yeah, thank you, because whenever I've been in a gym, sunlight just kills a basketball game in the afternoon,
Right.
so.
When you're inside, you won't have a view to the exterior necessarily, but you know, at nighttime, if the gym's lit up, it'll glow like a lantern, and vice versa. When you're on the inside in the daytime, the walls will kind of glow.
What kind of floor do you envision? Wood or the poured rubber floor?
Natural hardwood all the way.
Thank you.
Correct answer.
While we're on the gym, I have one question. I see that the gym is built not on borough property.
Correct.
That's on a piece of public,
Yes, that is the old Elks Lodge parcel, which should this project proceed, which I very much hope it will after tonight, we're having conversations with the owner of that property.
just what would happen if we don't get that?
If we don't get that, we'd have to revisit the design, which in this concept phase is not far down the road at all.
Absolutely.
Can you give me a basic idea of what the makeup of the building's gonna be? Like,
Of course.
you know, 1 bedroom,
2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units?
So that's really going to depend on a market study that has to be performed, and we're not at that stage right now. But you know, we just based on general knowledge of the market, mostly 1 and 2 bedrooms. I don't think there'll be too many 3 bedrooms. But again, it's going to depend on the market study.
And that'll also depend on how many parking spaces you need, why not?
Correct.
Because that'll differ, okay. And how many spaces are you gonna have in the 5 decks?
There's an estimated 520 spaces right now, which would have approximately 1.8 per unit, just on, again, first blush of the numbers. Accommodate for the 100 or so spots that we have now, plus add another 50. But again, we're still working through these numbers, and they're going to get honed a lot in the presentation for the redevelopment agreement.
I know it's early, but will the lot be open? People can just pull in? Do they expect to have to pay?
There's no intent to do a paid lot at this time for the public portion. Certainly with the residential parking, there would probably be a tag system or something of that sort. But with the deck, we'd have an opportunity to do different levels of who gets to what level parking.
Would you have plastic bag dispensers somewhere?
We have plastic bag recycling stations.
Right. Yeah, to Colleen's point, we could, potentially, the River Road entrance could be for municipal use and only access the first 2 floors or something like that. And then the other side could come in and access the upper floors for the residential.
Public parking. And
Correct.
are the residents going to be using that parking as well? Is that going to be their
Yes.
parking as well?
Yes.
There'll be a,
All right, and so we would obviously, there'd have to be a way to delineate the 2 different kinds of parking.
Yes.
Would residents have some kind of access to an automated system or something like that? Is that how you're envisioning
they'd
it?
most likely have a swipe card with
Yeah.
with a gate that would allow them access to their area, and then everything else could be open to the public.
All right. I have a couple of questions about, I'm a former trustee of the Belmar Arts Council, so I definitely am concerned about, I mean, they've done a lot of work with that space, but they've known the entire time that it was never really going to be able to be permanent. That being said, they still did a huge amount of work. And one of the things they have there, it's not just a gallery. They use that space for live musical performances, live spoken word performances. They also use it for workshops and classes. And now, is there a way that you could get them space in the first floor on the Main Street side that they could use for all those kind of functions?
Yes.
Or we're looking at something like that?
Yes, and in fact, I would say that it's an opportunity for us to get the Arts Council some of the amenities that they wish they had that they don't, like water.
Okay, is there a way like we could take the yellow robot guy and move him out, like, move him right up there in the front? I mean, all right, I'm very encouraged to hear that because I'm very concerned about that. I want to make sure that, I mean, the Arts Council is really, really done a great job with Belmar. They've changed the atmosphere here. I mean, we've always been an artistic town, but now we're the town where there's a wall, a mural is painted on it. That's really something special, and it's all because of the work of the people in the Arts Council.
And I can tell you just on a sidebar that the other architect who's working on this with me, she was part of our hometown Arts Council, Public Art Council. She's a proponent of public art, and we both promote it.
I mean, if there's a way that in your planning, you can come over and look and see what they're using that space for over there and what they've done with it, I think that would probably be one of the best things. It would be, I think everybody would feel really comfortable with that. That way we feel that those needs are being addressed. All right, I have something else Sure.
Just to add on the Arts Council, and to work with them if we can, especially not just what they've done and the space that they need and the events that they hold and the gallery and the art exhibits, but the pieces of artwork that they have, you know, Alan the Robot, but they've got other things that possibly we can either keep or display there on Main Street or put somewhere around town to keep those art structures. So again, it'd be really great if we kind of collaborate with them.
Absolutely. We appreciate all the people because we truly do this as a partnership. And
Yeah.
Okay,
we take everything
all right,
into
now I have to express some concerns. In looking at your concept designs, one of the things I'm concerned about, look, there's no question we need a new Borough Hall. There's no question that this facility here has long outlived its useful. It's really not healthy for our people to be working in it. And the idea that we can get it without having to have the taxpayers pony up the money, including a parking garage, it's sweet. It's no question about it. It's really sweet. It's very attractive. But you need to you realize that what you're proposing is 2 stories higher than anything else in town. Anything on Main Street, I mean. Anything else on Main Street, it's 2 stories higher. I mean, even if you go into Asbury Park, you really don't see that many 5-story buildings. And my concern is this, and looking at that design, it brings even more of a concern to me. I'm really concerned about a 5-story wall rising right up on the side of Main Street. Main Street doesn't run east and west, it runs north and south. If we have a big tall wall like that, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the street's going to be dark. There's not going to be any sun reaching the sidewalk. It's going to be dark. And that kind of thing will change the entire environment of this end of town. And I'm also concerned that if by saying yes to this proposal, I don't want to see us locked into, now we have to say yes to everybody who wants to do 5 stories up and down Main Street, and all of a sudden we are living in a town with a canyon running right through town. I have to express those concerns. If there's any way that you can work with your design, I know you have a target that you have to get to make the price point work for the entire project. But if there's anything you can do with that design to make sure that there's more light and more air reaching down into Main Street, that would make a big difference for me. If I had to say, make a choice right now, I'd have a hard time saying yes to a design like that.
Okay. And that's certainly the process that we're going to be entering into. Frankly, when you take a look at the Seaport Development Zone and you take a look at Main Street, right now we are 3.5 stories on Main, and so this would be 1.5 over that. We would be working with our planner and our attorneys to make sure that the height is addressed in this area for the specific purpose. I hear what you're saying about being afraid that it's a slippery slope. I'm sure the planners and attorneys can work with us to bring you some comfort on that. As far as it goes in terms of the canyon effect, we absolutely hear you. And it's something that we've bantered about and we will continue to banter about before we come back with their final presentation. Part of the texture that you see in the step backs and setbacks came from that concern, wanting to make it not feel like a wall, but a series of buildings.
It's a good start.
It's a good start, and there's more good that can happen there. So, heard you, and it's a concern that we've anticipated. I would venture the suggestion that if you are going to go 5 stories, this isn't at 10th and Main. This isn't, when you're looking at where we are situated as it relates to the inlet, as it relates to the railroad tracks, as it relates to the Route 35 bridge, I think if you are going to entertain 5 stories, it's probably in this general area to entertain it.
I have one last question. Are we at any point going to have, if this proceeds along, is there going to be an opportunity for the public to express? Is there going to be some kind of public hearing?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
I would be very curious to see what the public has to say about it.
I have the same concerns as Councilman Brennan. I also have a few other concerns. Because of the number of units that's there, I mean, just traffic impact studies that are going to have to be done before we can even take a look at this, and infrastructure. I mean, you're talking about 206 units. I mean, we don't have a high school, so we can't intermingle the kids into our school system because each high school kid has to pay $15,000. We have to pay $15,000 to send them into the high schools, so that's a big concern. One of the other concerns I'm looking at, what is the square footage right now of the municipal building they're proposing?
I think it's approximately 18,000 square feet.
So we have 26 now.
We have 23 now.
I have a sheet here that says that I think you provided, it said 26.
It could have been a typo. Take a look. I thought it was 26.
So we're going to get a smaller Borough Hall.
And I believe
Actually, we need more room.
The gym is actually another 10,000.
Yes.
So, all right.
And certainly the layout of this building as it exists right now, there's a lot of not smart design space. So while we might be spread out over that square footage, there is a lot of underutilized space. If we were to be starting from scratch, there's a much smarter way to lay out the building and design it.
Yeah, I mean, we have to build it like we're working in the summer all the time, because that's our problem.
Well, those are conversations we've absolutely had with Brandywine, with the architect, in terms of the very nature of who we are as a town is that we expand and contract twice a year. So the staff that is in this building today on March 20th is much different from the staff that is in this building on July 4th. And so the building needs to be able to breathe when we're doing that. So that's part
I
of the
mean, even
design
traffic
consideration.
studies all have to take that into consideration. I mean, we have to look at it like we have the summer 4 months a year, because basically that's what it is. And having the 206 units we've never had a project this size ever. And, you know, I have the same concerns about the 5 stories. So we're putting a lot of residents in one small area, and then having a rural hall right there also. There's a lot of concerns there.
As far as the building size goes, I mean, our first step from taking a concept plan to an actual plan would be programming, writing the game plan for how the building's gonna live and work. So we'll interview the staff, the departments, department heads to find out what space they need, how we can make it function efficiently, how it does grow and expand and contract throughout the year. You know, it may not end up at 18,000, it may end up a little bit higher, but we also hope to improve on the efficiency from.
Yeah, I mean, even before we even bring this back to the council, I mean, the parking garage, you had a car fire on the 3rd deck there, how's a fire truck even gonna get in there to put it out? I mean, it's built right around the whole parking deck, so, you know, those are the concerns that we're really gonna take a look at. I mean, first aid has to be brought in, we got a volunteer first aid squad, we're putting 206 units there. Just looking to see if they have enough personnel to handle what needs to be handled. So there's a lot of concerns in this project. We're just taking a look at it because it's something that we never took a look at.
The biggest thing. It's big.
Okay, good point. Tom Cox, I see policemen back here. Have you spoken with Tina and Drew about this?
Yes.
What do you, any questions you might have?
No, we're definitely for the new building. We gave Colleen a letter from the Belmar Police Association, just indicating some issues we have with the old building. But we look forward to moving forward with something new, something with more technology, more security. So we're definitely in favor of this project.
Okay, so you've seen it. What about, do we have any, well, you're obviously the administrator. Robin?
Do I have
Do you
any
ideas?
Any of the administrative staff who would like to talk?
You were here when we moved from the old building into this building.
So you're going to tell everybody how long I've been here?
Too long.
I mean, we have discussed that this is a very valuable, I'm the finance officer and the tax collector, everybody knows that. We've talked about this parcel potentially becoming redeveloped at some point in time. If nobody knows it, this is a very valuable piece of land that we sit on as a tax exempt piece of property. So it has always kind of been anticipated that this property would eventually become redeveloped. Parking structures have been discussed in the past. 5-story buildings have been discussed closer to the railroad tracks, those types of items. So I'm sure at some point, whether something's got to maybe move off of Main Street and maybe go on top of us. We're only 3 stories I see there. Maybe something like that would work to get it off of Main Street. But I can tell you as the finance officer anyway, we have been in this building for a very long time. It was a revamped car garage. When we moved into it, if you scrape your hand on the wall, you cut it. We're in the middle of band-aiding everything in this building. I think, Colleen, I know you and I have gone over numbers. We've spent close to $20,000 to $40,000 in the past 2 years just trying to keep our heat going. A lot of the units need to be replaced. There's going to be expenses to the taxpayers in the next few years to keep this building going. I think I texted you. Did we ever fix the microphone system in here?
No, we did not.
I talk loud.
No, we
It doesn't
didn't.
bother me. Those types, as the finance officer, I'm just letting you know, there are things coming down the pipe that are going to have to be done with this building.
Yes.
Looking at the possibility of somehow covering, I haven't seen all the finances of this yet, somehow covering the cost of not having to fix this and get into something new, whether it's that size, whether we do look at efficiencies, I think it is definitely something to look at, both on the taxpayer perspective, not spending money on this, if eventually we could get into something new, and also making this a rateable. Again, we're sitting on a very valuable piece of property. You all know what your properties are worth. You know what taxes you pay. I'd rather see them paying taxes on this property than us sitting here and not paying taxes. So it's just something else to consider. It would help the finances of the borough. So,
Thank you, Rob.
that's all.
Colleen, you said this is a public-private program.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans for a restaurant or anything like that? Or more like professional buildings? Do you know?
A restaurant is not contemplated for this project. It would be professional offices, gallery space, walkable.
Service-oriented.
Service-oriented. We wouldn't be considering a restaurant.
But no restaurant?
No.
Okay.
And that's just all along the Main Street side.
Main Street 6, yes.
Oh, 6th Avenue will also have that on the first floor? It will be commercial space? Logistically, how do you see this project going forward as far as moving? Do you see building the Borough Hall first and then moving everybody over to do the rest of the project? Or
We have
that would be a cost that we would have to look at?
We have it staged, and again, as Robin mentioned, we have a lot of moving parts to work out in the pro forma before we come back to you with the developer's agreement and the financial agreement. But the intent is right now is to maximize the construction site and schedule by having borough functions swing out into temporary space, either utilizing interlocals with other towns, temporarily renting Main Street office space for administrative staff, having that cost borne by Brandywine, and it's going to be worked into the pro forma for the project. But it is our intention to move out so that everything can be demolished and then built, taking advantage of the fact that doing construction all at once will hopefully yield a better price on the construction contract as well.
Mike?
Yeah, just Mike Campbell, I'm the superintendent, I'm in charge of public buildings also. Just want to mention something about the buildings and the challenges we have with it. If you walk in the front door, you notice our lights are out and we can't even get them lit anymore. We've done it a couple times where we've rewired the whole out front, but we have so many squirrels and such living in the attics that they keep chewing through, getting zapped, and we can't even get electricity in there anymore. After every storm, after every rain, after everything, George, who everybody loves, has to go and replace all the tiles. So we keep the tile makers in business because we have so many leaks in the roof, and we've done the roof 3-4 times. We just can't seal it enough. It's coming through the vents on different winds, and it just wasn't meant for this. So again, the water that comes in here, we've had problems with mold, large mold issues in the past, where we've had to strip out ceilings and walls and the dispatch area and other things and try and make it presentable. The building has been nothing but a challenge. The heat is a major challenge, and there is going to be, as Robin had so eloquently put, there are going to be some monies that are going to have to be spent. If it does not work, we don't come up with another plan to get this building usable for the police, and it has nothing to do with the police security issues that they have, the Sallyport space. They have a department of around 25 permanent officers all the time, not including the dispatch, but they grow to around 180 in the summer. And trying to get all those men in there and have other agencies come in here also when there's a major crime or an incident or a St. Patrick's Day parade or seafood, it just doesn't work. So again, I would love us to climb into at least the year 2000, give the police the security issues that they need, and keep the taxes off of the taxpayers, because this building is going to create a lot of monetary problems. You know, it's just coming down the road. We can't just keep putting Band-Aids on what we have anymore. We run out of Band-Aids.
If I could piggyback on what Mike said real quickly, I really do have to commend the staff who work in this building. I have to commend the Public Works. We have been holding a lot of this building together with duct tape and ceiling tiles for quite some time. And as their borough administrator, I have to tell you they deserve to be able to come to work in a professional environment and deliver the services that they deliver every day. They deserve that. Our challenge is to find a way that it makes sense for everyone. that it is smart development, that it's a balanced approach, and that it's not a burden to the taxpayers. I believe we're on the right track. What we would like to do is essentially leave this room with your nod, your blessing, to start negotiating, to start holding some community input groups, to start holding some design input with the staff, and return to you in a few months' time with a redevelopers agreement and a financial agreement that hopefully hit all those notes that I just laid out in terms of being balanced and smart.
The only problem with that is, I mean, I know we have to do something with this building. I worked here for 25 years, and I know that we actually really have to do something. But to ask us tonight to vote on something without a lot of questions answered, there's got to be a lot of different questions answered, especially when we're looking at 206 units. That is a major, major project, and to see what the impact is going to be to this town, I don't even know if I can give you an answer for that tonight.
If there is no vote tonight, just to correct the record, the way we roll out our developer agreements, all of them, this one not being any exception, is this is the first presentation. It's to gauge feedback, get thoughts and concerns from you, and essentially instruct me to start negotiating with the developer. That starts approximately a 1 month to 2 month process where we take more input, we start negotiating, we talk about pro forma, we talk about design, and then what we come back, the developer will come back with the full presentation. That's a public session hearing, and the project would be considered in full at that time. So I'm hearing you say things, Councilman Moss-Spurs, in terms of traffic study, stress on infrastructure. Those are things that we will be working on in the interim. So that by the time
I really would like to see a different type of design other than what's there before, and have them come back with some type of preliminary design that we can all agree on before we start doing any of that.
Well, just as you've been in my office with the developer twice leading up to now, that's the time to give that input and think about it.
I didn't look at that in your office. That's completely different than what we looked at in your office.
It's that different, but certainly that's why we have these conversations, and you're always welcome in my office to...
There was a pool involved where we looked, wasn't there, Jen? Didn't we have a pool there?
The pool still
So
there.
this is the first time I'm saying this.
Still included.
The pool is still there?
You can't see it.
But for the residents, it wouldn't be for.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, but not a public pool.
But again, that's why we try to involve council as often as we can in these conversations in my office and leading up to the presentation.
Greg, what do? We just go down the line and we're just, and the workshop?
Administrator is asking for a straw poll as to whether she should move forward with negotiations. It's not an official vote or resolution.
Okay. Tom, you want to go first?
What do you think?
Oh, okay, well, you know, I tell you the truth, I think Councilman Moss made it really clear. I mean, I expressed my concerns about the Arts Council, but I think really what we're talking about is, it's a really large project. We know we need a new borough hall. I want to be able to say yes, but you have to do something that make me feel comfortable with the size of the project, that it's going to work for everybody involved in all these facets.
So are you saying yes or no?
I'm saying yeah. We should definitely go forward and see what we can do with it.
Jen?
I agree. I mean, there's a lot to still work on, and I think we've touched on the major issues, and I think it's extremely needed, and I would hate for the taxpayers to have to pay for it. So, I'd say yes.
I'm a no right now, the way it's designed, and I'd have to take there's a lot more questions.
So you're saying no project?
No.
No project. You want to stay in this building? All right. I say we need a new building. I want the professionals to look at it, come back, discuss with you, and see what works. And then if we like it, then
we can always
vote no later on. But I say yes. Let's move forward to see if we can get something that works.
Thank you very much. And could I ask everybody who works in this building every day, stand up for me, please? I just thank you for coming out tonight, and we'll be getting all of your input on the project continually as well. Thank you.
Can we all go home now to the snow house?
You can go home. It's snowing. Go. Okay. Thank you. You're good. You're done.
Why can't they stay unless they just
Thank you, guys.
All right. Hey, Tom. Next, sorry I'm late, I apologize. Next item, our workshop discussion is the 10th Avenue roundabout.
Yes.
I'd like to ask our Department of Public Works Superintendent Mike Campbell to come forward. And, we talked briefly about this last meeting. I think we all know the issue with 10th Avenue. And the roundabouts are, they gotta go.
I agree.
What is that going to entail? And we'll replace them with stop signs and make them four-way stops, is that the idea?
Yes, sir, you and I had a discussion, the governor and I had a discussion on removing these roundabouts. And in fact, received a call from one of our residents today about how bad the roundabouts are. We get calls quite often. As you know, I can't plant flowers or bushes or anything now, so they look horrible. And every time we do plant in the spring, people run them over and knock them right out. So again, I did ask the resident, Ms. Renner, to come tonight and voice her opinion if she wished. I told her we'll be on the workshop. But again, in order for me to replace them, DPW can do the work. We will take our street saws and cut out the circle. We will put in 10 tons of crushed concrete and then 10 tons of blacktop. We will black out the intersections for any of the arrows and such going around the circle, and we will put in 4 stop signs, as you all have been in discussion with anyway, for B and D Street. This would just be the first ones that we put in that area, as long as you tell me to and the police tell me to. So we'll make each of those circled non-conformities a 4-way stop sign, which I think would slow down people on the roads, especially on 10th Avenue. It's one of our main ways up to the beach. I think it'll be a good thing for residents, for the children of residents. I think it'll be much more pleasing to the eye, and I think that you were very right in bringing this up. And it was an experiment to try and slow down traffic, and Mr. Walsifer, I was going to call him Sergeant Walsifer, I apologize, was part of the police department then. It was a good experiment. My opinion is it does not work, and it's time to move on and put in 4-way stop signs and get rid of these 2 first. Get your feedback, get the residents' feedback, and let's get rid of the rest too. Out the door.
Any comments, questions for?
How long do you think the job would take?
I can get those done. I can do that in 3 notes. I can get those done in each one in 2 days.
Each one in 2 days.
So it takes me a week to get them both completely out and put stop signs up once you give me the go-ahead.
I hear the word stop signs, and I think before we get that done right away, I know we had an issue of stop signs on down the southern end where we made the streets one way.
Correct.
And the people have been asking for stop signs there.
Yeah.
Have we been able to get those stop signs up for that?
I have not been able to put them up. I do have them. I have purchased them. I have spoken to our borough administrator and our police as late as today. It is just a wording of the ordinance now that has to be changed. You all have to approve it, and then we're ready to go.
Yeah.
But as soon as they give me the go-ahead, I will have the stop signs put up in 3 days.
Okay.
All of them.
Once there's no snow.
We are working on the ordinance fix for the stop signs on the south end of town. We could incorporate this into that same ordinance
Yeah.
and have it for you at your next meeting.
So we should do it at the same time, so that all of a sudden these roundabouts that are coming up now don't get done before the stop signs that we had promised earlier. So if we could be like one project and get one project done and completed before we move on.
Yep.
Logistics are yours, whatever you want to do.
I don't know.
I love the roundabout. I like to get in them and go around and around. It was just so unique. No, I know, I understand. I remember when they went in, the whole idea was to try to calm traffic with something different because the plain old stop signs just weren't working. But I'll tell you, in thinking about it, I mean, you're right, they look terrible. And you can't really get anything that would grow, that would look nice, would end up being too tall and become a traffic obstruction, so you can't even consider it. And, you know, I think because we're basically turning into a town with four-way stops, like, more than not. There are going to be four-way stops at so many intersections. It's going to become the kind of thing that people are used to seeing. And that being said, I suppose I can forego.
I think people speed up to kind of have fun and go around. When I visually see people go towards it, I feel.
That's still get around?
Was it? I don't know, I haven't seen a.
Approximately a month
Do you guys
ago.
have statistics on if you have a lot of speeding tickets on 10th Avenue, or were they working, or?
Yeah, we'd have to research that, but again, the roundabouts, I think, with this day and age, I think we have more traffic now than we had when they were put in and the studies were done. I think the town is much more busier. I see it as more confusing than anything. I think the stops, the more stops we have, especially at those roundabouts, I think it's gonna help slow down the traffic, is what we're trying to do. So I think it's a great idea, and we had a discussion about it, and we are definitely for removing the roundabouts. I don't think they've outgrown their usefulness. And I was there the day they poured those roundabouts. I remember it well.
You have something else to add?
Yes, if you look at them, even tomorrow, if the residents want to look at them, you just go by, you'll see all the tire tracks through it. And approximately 5 or 6 weeks ago, I had asked George, because we always have to, anything that gets caught up there, go up and clean the area, whatever it's going to be. Literally, George almost got hit by somebody going right through the circle, not stopping, and what would the town be without George?
That was me driving, trying to run and you said Vicki Renner was gonna get a sledgehammer and help take out the...
I know she had a concern, that's all I'm saying.
We'll put it to work.
I don't know what I'm gonna say is gonna be what you wanna hear.
You wanna make a comment on this?
I'd like to.
Oh, sure.
That's why I came.
Oh.
Vicki Renner, 106 D Street. I called today, obviously, because, yes, there are tire tracks across it, and it's a mud hole, it's ugly and disgusting. And I didn't know there was a meeting about it tonight or 2 weeks ago, that there was even a discussion. What I was calling to say is I was wondering why it was so neglected. When if I drive down Fifth Avenue on the Inlet Terrace side and the triangles and everything there, I took pictures, and they're all stones, and there's a couple of shrubs, and it was beautiful. And so I also was part of, I don't know if it was Jack Hill and Tommy, I mean, I worked on that police stuff for years, slowing traffic down, and that was the suggestion at the time. And also the discussion, you're saying tonight, it's easy to get the four-way stop signs up. I fought for, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years to get them on 12th Avenue because the law, they told me, you have to really show that there's accidents and I had 2 people die. You had to have some deaths in there to get the four-way stop signs. So I didn't realize that changed, and it's easy now to put four-way stop signs up wherever you want them to slow traffic down. Is that the case, that you can get them easier now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so we can get the four-way stop sign. I think my only disappointment is I pictured it being beautiful as a roundabout. I pictured there low shrubs or gravel or whatever, or ultimately, yeah, you could put like a beautiful statue of something, which is never gonna happen, but I picture that. So aesthetically, I think it added charm, or there was a way to add charm to the roundabouts and make the town give it something. So I think it does slow traffic down. I also noticed, because I live 2 blocks away, that when large delivery trucks that have to go from 35 to Ocean Avenue, I don't know which road is their so-called one that they're told to use. Obviously, it's either 5th, 8th, 10th, 12th, or 16th. So 10th Avenue, I do think you will see an increase of truck deliveries back to that, even though I don't live there. I just know that's going to increase that. Obviously, they take some away from us on 12. But a large truck cannot navigate those circles that way. So they tend to go on a straight, direct route as easy as possible. So if it's something that, you decide it doesn't work and you'll think that's like the best thing, that's fine. I just think if there was a way, if we were to keep it and preserve it and make it aesthetically beautiful and something actually to look at that you have to go around, which a low hedge that's maintained, boxwood or whatever, and filled in with something, I think it could be done right. But yes, there are going to be idiots that drive through them and crush them and do whatever. But the last few years, it was neglected, maintained. I mean, I often thought of going there myself, buying shrubs and just planting the suckers to make it look right, because it's just ugly. It's just neglected. So if there was a way to do it right, it would be great, but it doesn't seem like, anybody really wants to give it a go, so.
Thank you. What are you going to say, George?
Real quick, George Crumphouse, 111 3rd Avenue. Kevin Gant tried over and over again. Lately, when I'm cleaning them, everybody's drinking those little shots of Red Devil or whatever. Like, people use it as a garbage. And I have seen big trucks go down with a picture conflict. Just difference of opinion. I mean,
We plant that every year with bushes, and every year, by the time the fall gets there and the winter gets there, they're knocked out by cars moving. We plant it every spring.
Thank you. That's it for workshop discussion. Unless there's anything else from other members of the council for workshop? None? All right. Any petitions? Anyone want to petition the council tonight? Let's see any petitions. Next, approval of the minutes.
Tom has it today.
Well, you know what, I wasn't here last time, so you should definitely do it.
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on March 6th, 2018 be approved as recorded and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Nicolai?
Yes.
Mayor Gowdy?
Yes.
Councilman Walsifer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Governor?
Yes,
Next are reports of council. Council President McGovern, would you start us off?
I will. At the last meeting, I just want to clear up something at the last meeting. It was talked about that the wages for the lifeguards were so low that we had difficulty getting enough lifeguards to work in Belmar, that they're going to other towns. So I asked Colleen to check it out, and she gave me the starting wages for a lifeguard. In Belmar, the starting wage is $10.65. Seagirt, $10.20. Asbury, $10. Spring Lake, $10.93. So we're Avon, we try to get Avon, but Avon goes by daily rate. So it's hard to figure out. So we're right there in the mix of the other towns. We're, the way I see it, we're the second highest for the starting of the wages for the lifeguards. So I just want to clear that up. Last Saturday, it happened to be St. Patrick's Day. Paul Allen from Microsoft, he was the sponsor for Bob Kraft, the director of the expedition. They discovered the SS Juno in 12,000 feet of water sitting on the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Why is that important? I think it's a big issue. The Juno are out there where 4 people from Belmar died on the sinking of the Juno. And they just found it last Saturday. It's also referred to as the ship that the 5 Sullivan brothers died. And the fact that they found it on St. Patrick's Day for the 5 Sullivan brothers is just a coincidence. But I think it's a big deal to Belmar that that ship has finally been discovered. Especially for the 4 families, the Class family, the Sherman family, Frigario, and McCollum. On May 5th, around 10 a.m., it'll take about 2 or 3 hours, the Seward Johnson Atelier Foundation is going to be taking down the Doughboy statue over here. So you may want to go down there and just watch the day where the statue goes down. They'll bring it to their Hamilton factory, and they'll recondition it. They'll make it all as good as new, and it should be back up the last week in July. And I think the Historical Society wants to have some type of big to-do when we rededicate that statue, brand-new statue. So that's May 5th. And we'll have other meetings before then, so I'll remind you. I know I want to be there. Next, we had a snowstorm out there. Again, it's going to be another heavy, wet snowstorm. And coming from the Shade Tree Commission, I'm concerned about the saturation of the ground. And you just can't support some of these big trees that we have. And so what our DPW has been doing this past week, and I'm going to ask Mike in a second to confirm that, they've been going around proactively looking for priority trees, priority limbs, branches, and cutting them down so that they don't come down during a storm while someone's driving on the road underneath them or walking on the sidewalk beneath them. Mike, what did you do recently?
Based on the shade, we had members of the shade tree go out and look for dead trees, dead roots, dead whatever, and we did try and take those down, anything that would become a public nuisance or a public safety issue. But the other thing we've been doing is, because we are worried about the saturation of the trees and the weight, we've taken down a lot of the trees that have gone across the roadways and had 30 to 40 foot wide branches and just got that weight off. So we're just trimming the trees, we're not killing the trees. We're taking that weight off so in case, God forbid, the tree did fall or the limb had fallen, it doesn't crush certainly any people, but any vehicles or anything else. So we've just been trying to clean up our roadways. If you look down, our goal is when you're looking down the street, you won't see these large limbs just coming across, interfering with wires, other trees, things like that. So we've been using the bucket truck a lot, and a crew of 4 people, and they've been going out every day for about the past 2.5 weeks.
So last storm, we only had one tree come down.
One tree fell over because of the saturated
Yeah.
ground. Other than that, we did have some branches and other large things fall, but even before that one, we were doing some after discussion with you. But again, we've been catching up to it now. We've had a couple of days of nice weather, so I've had the parks guys all going out and working on the taking down of the limbs and such like that.
Okay, thank you. Also, with this cold, wet weather, and then it's warmed up, and then we've had more snow, the potholes are starting to develop. So if around your house, on your street, on your avenue, if you see a pothole that needs to be attended to, please call the Public Works Department and bring it to their, let them know about it so they can send out a crew and possibly fill it as soon as possible. Mike, you've been starting to do that yet, or?
Yes, when we can, based on the weather, but as soon as the weather breaks, we do have a list. Ed, he's our office assistant, and he keeps a list of potholes, and we will certainly go back, fill them in, and get done what we can. We are cutting them, trying to do them correctly, and we'll jump on as soon as we can. We have gotten quite a few. We did about, I think it was 11 tons in the last week and a half.
11 tons of macadam?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's my report there, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Walser.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I want to congratulate the mayor on his new position, and I want to wish him all the best of luck in the governor's cabinet or whatever position you have. So, I want to wish you all the luck and thanks for the good job.
You just want to comp for him, don't you? Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Brennan.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I wasn't able to be here at the last meeting. Yeah, I was ill. So I haven't had a chance to personally thank our Public Works Department, our Police Department for the great job they did for the parade, for the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I was marching with the school band, and honestly, it's one of the highlights of my year. It's one of the reasons I love my job, is I get to be in the parade. And I'm always really, really proud. It's Belmar's chance to shine. We have so many people come in to enjoy the day, and we treat them well, we take care of them, and our town looks great, everybody feels safe, and that's because of the work that our Public Works and our police department are doing. So congratulations, thanks once again for a great job. I have here the ANJEC, Association of New Jersey Environmental Commission report for winter 2018. There's an article in here about Belmar's solution to plastic pollution. They have an article about the reusable bags and the logo contest that the Environmental Commission did. It also mentions the Belmar Business Partnership and our business community as being partners in distributing those bags. Let's see, some more numbers. The United States goes through 100 billion plastic shopping bags annually. Approximately 12 million barrels of oil are required to make that much plastic bag. Let's see. Oh, here's a great little piece of information. It's in California banned the use of single-use plastic bags, and they in 2015. So they just did like a survey of plastic litter cleanup along their beaches. 72% reduction in the number of plastic bags compared to 2010. Wow. One California county reported finding 433 bags last year as compared to 4,357 in 2010. So bans make a difference. They really do. And this is, unfortunately, you can't get these reports, you can't see it online until they issue the next one in the spring. But then it's available for a free download from ANJEC, ANJEC.org. So then you have to be a member, and my wife's a member, that's why I got a copy. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nicolay.
So I was taking care of a friend's dog, and when I was cleaning up after it with a plastic bag on my hand, I thought of Tom. And I stopped in my tracks thinking, what do I do? And I don't want to go home and wash it out and reuse it. But he told me this evening to use the plastic bags that newspapers come in, because they can be used for the newspaper, and then you can use them for your pets. So I will start collecting them. For me, the Arts Council, the book art show is still going till March 23rd, and it's really, really different, very, very neat. So if you can get over to see that, that'd be great. That's really it. Oh, there's sign-ups for the Belmar Summer Camp this evening, and tomorrow, which is absolutely incredible camp. Residents and non-residents, it's worth every penny, and the kids love it. I think this will be my kids' 4th or 5th year. So looking forward to signing up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council President.
I forgot to mention a shout out to Brookdale Community College. They won the national championship for community college basketball. Their head coach, Paul Chiswick, but their assistant coach, Charlie Hawthorne, used to work with me in the recreation department as a coach and as a referee, so used to be good friends with him, used to come down all the time, so congratulations, Brookdale Community College men's basketball national champions.
You want to mention Manasquan girls?
Manasquan girls, yeah, they won. I was hoping to see a St. Rose Manasquan Tournament of Champions final, but St. Rose got upset in the last couple seconds by Franklin, which allowed Manasquan to play Franklin High School in the championship, who beat Manasquan last year. But Manasquan, thanks to Dara Mabry, scoring over 30 points, 19 of them, I believe, in the second half alone, held off Franklin, and our Tournament of Champions, again, best girls high school basketball team in the state.
Thank you, Council President. I only have one thing to report. So I appreciate Councilman Walsford's words about my position. So today, the board at the New Jersey Casino Reinvestment Development Authority, it's a mouthful, voted to appoint me the executive director. This is a huge, huge opportunity for me. Atlantic City is, not just a great Jersey Shore town or a great town for New Jersey, but it's an iconic city in this country. And the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority, it's shortened to CRDA. It's often called CREDA. which sounds like a sea monster, but that's what it's called. So CREDA invests in economic development in the city to help revitalize it, and it also brings tourism to the city by spending money on large acts. Last year, for instance, they had Pink on their beachfront that drew about 60,000 people. So, you know, if you think about, to put it in scale to Belmar, we probably get about, you know, over 1 million visitors annually. Atlantic City gets over 20 million. And in the past, it had gotten even more than that. I've been in contact with our borough attorney as far as what this means, both for me and for the town. So because of this position, I am going to have to step down as being mayor here in Belmar. I'll give my official notice to April, the next coming days. I can tell you all that my last council meeting will be the next one, which is scheduled for April 10th. That'll be my last day as mayor. What that means for the town is you're going to have a new mayor starting the following day. Again, talking with Greg Cannon, per the state statute, the responsibilities of the mayor and the power of the mayor would go to the council president. In this case, that would be Brian McGovern. What? Because of that, I'm moving myself and my family immediately out of the next process for the residents that's important would be the members of the governing body, the remaining members, would have to select a new mayor and also select a new member of the council. Because as the mayor, I also sit as a member of the council. So the council members will be reduced from 5 down to 4. The next 3 weeks will be a transition. Again, Council President and I already have a great relationship, but I want to bring him more up to speed as the things we're doing on an executive level. And I think 3 weeks is an appropriate transition period for that to occur. So I'll have more to say at our April 10th meeting, but I just wanted to bring you up to speed and hopefully explain why I need to step down going forward. Whether or not I necessarily legally have to step down, I don't know, but I can tell you that I think one of the reasons why I do a good job being mayor is I spend a lot of time and put a lot of effort into it. But driving to and from Atlantic City every day and working down there for a full day and dedicating myself to revitalizing that city is going to take up all my time. And it would not be fair to the residents. They need, the residents of Belmar need and deserve to have a mayor here full time for everything that's going on. So that's just my report, just a little thing I have to say. That's all for me. Next would be public session on the resolution calendar. Any comments, questions on the resolution calendar? Raise your hand, wait to call down, come to the microphone. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public session for the resolution calendar.
Second.
Next resolution, I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Okay.
Good night.
Can I have a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing payment of bills? Have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman Osborne?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Yes. Next, can I have a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of personal property at auction? Second?
I'll second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicolay?
Yes.
Councilman Osborne?
Yes.
Councilman Montgomery?
Yes. Finally, can I have a motion to adopt the resolution pursuant to the NJAC 5-3-14.4, the sequential change order number 3 for the rebid of the Main Street Streetscape project. Colleen, can you kind of explain that? That was kind of a mouthful.
Sure it is. This is change order number 3 on the Main Street Streetscape that's going from 10th Avenue to 5th Avenue. new light poles, pavers, various and sundry improvements. The project is coming towards the end and its completion. This was a change order to reorder a few blocks in terms of when they were addressed and installed. As a result, it's a savings. It's a negative change order, which is the kind of change order we like. So this is actually a project reduction.
What, do we have a completion date
We are still shooting for Memorial Day.
for Memorial Day?
Yes.
So lights can go on by Memorial Day.
That is what everyone's working towards.
Oh my God.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Brennan?
Yes.
Councilor Nichol?
Yes.
Councilor Osper?
Yes.
Councilor McGovern?
Yes.
Thank you, Council President. Next, there are no ordinances, so we'll move right to public session. Public session, very simple. Raise your hand when you be called on, come to the microphone, state your name, address for record, and what you'd like to talk about. Yes.
I'm good.
What's your name again, sir?
George Comcast.
How many are you in this town? You must have 2 or 3.
First, I want to say, Mayor, you're not just my mayor and my boss, but you're a good personal friend. I just want to wish you the best in land safety for my family. You're always good to Public Works, and whenever I jog or walk the boardwalk, I think of you because I would have put money, like I've said before meetings, that boardwalk would have never been done by 2013. So I just remember you were there all the time, and all the council people, and I think of your daughter, with my daughter, the whole 8th grade class of girls are just like incredible human beings, and they're just going to go far. And just want to thank you for everything. And on the building, I mean, I love everything that's going on in Belmar. That's me personally, not just because people call me like I'm a fence sitting on ground, like I said before. When I see what that Mildred's has done, and Mekia, and Sonny, and all them, you know, Barry, and Lorette builders, and, you know, some people say it's too tall. This side of town, I'm not an architect. It doesn't bother me, but everybody's allowed to see things differently. And how many units? 206, so that's a lot of people that will shop in restaurants and go hire other people, and, you know, small business is the biggest employers. But on this building, believe me, it's hard to keep it on. I tried. Today I was cleaning vents and only replaced one tile, like sorry. And the community center, the library, I mean, but I'd love to see a new building, but that's me personally, parking garages. But again, I'm going to miss you, Mayor.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I might, Mr. Cohen-Toss reminded me of something. Speaking of all those wonderful human beings, they're all putting on a play this Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
At this Belmar Elementary School. They're doing Alice in Wonderland. There's amazing. The dodo bird and the caterpillar. Outstanding. They're great. I've been watching the kids rehearse this week because I'm the audio technician. They're really, really good. It's a real treat to watch. So Friday at 7 and Saturday at 2. Good. Thank you.
And George, I'll get you comp rooms, a winning table. You know what I'm saying?
That could be good to the fire company for
Just kidding, just kidding. Can't do that. Thank you, Kathy.
Somebody else? Yeah. No, I do have to go.
Yeah, sorry.
Vicki Brennan, 1106 D Street, Belmar. No, I was just hoping that those guys would have stuck around so if people had comments, so they would take it back with them and hear what the public had to say, because I had no idea this was even going on tonight. But I just would have said to them, for years when we designed things, again, 15, 20 years ago, it was a whole pedestrian-friendly streetscape, they called it. I had all the works on it from the state. We worked on very, hard things, and it included, the awnings, the trees. And when I look at that, they call it a project. It looks like a project because it's just solid. There's no charm. There's nothing that makes it a small town. So to achieve that, I think they needed to hear the public's aesthetically again. There's a way to make it a softscape, to bring it down to the level of the people walking. And whatever they do put in for commercial or whatever, it has to flow. It can't be, I remember years ago they said you can't have just a law office room because it stops the flow of walking pedestrian traffic to see shops and whatever. Like you have to, there's a whole theory of how that all works, which I'm sure they're aware of. But to me, that did not present what I would picture pedestrian friendly and softscape. So I realize it's just a preliminary, thing here, but they need to consider if there's a way to, you know, cut the buildings in and out. And if you walk through Charleston, you'll see greenery. There's greenery everywhere. It's a lot of bricks, but it doesn't come across as solid. So I was hoping they would listen to a few things.
I'll certainly carry that.
And then also you just mentioned about the, one of the, from 5th to 10th, you're going to finish the streetscaping, which would, if this goes through, would include that. So would it or wouldn't it, or?
This block, largely because of potential anticipated development, we went ahead with the light poles, but didn't necessarily do the pavers in this phase.
Okay.
While we're seeing what was
going
gonna
to say,
happen.
the lighting, the pavers, the greenery.
Oh, sure, it's all part of it.
You don't want to have, pay for it to be done,
Right.
and then we dig it up again and start all over.
Exactly right. Yep.
And also, out of curiosity, would they be exempt from the taxes? Because the other things, like in certain areas where they didn't have to pay for 5 years or certain things, are they exempt if they build this, or would they be contributing as soon as it was finished?
No, there would be a hefty payment in lieu of taxes, likely, but that's all going to be worked out with the pro forma before we come back.
Okay, so that's the wires, the underground road. And the only thing otherwise I would say is when they have the meetings on it or the design, I would hope, because the Marina Grill, when that was built in the first rendition that they had given us, I love that thing so much, and when they showed what it was, and then they changed the whole design of it, and it's, one thing or another, it's just, there's different tastes. I personally had really liked what they presented the first time, and when they cut back, they went to a more modern box-looking design. So whatever this, if this should come to fruition and they build this, I would hope the design that they present is exactly what we did get. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, no, it's a little low. You just need to get coming close to.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Russo. I live at 1218 Private Road. I wanted to say we'll miss you very much. Good luck in your new endeavor. It won't be the same without you. My other question is, you mentioned that tonight you can register for camp. Can you register if you're new for camp? Or is it only the returning people?
Tonight is returning. Tomorrow night is if you,
Yes, because what happens tomorrow?
Tomorrow night is anybody who lives in Belmar, goes to school in Belmar, and is new.
But what if there's too much snow?
There's two, we're going to reschedule. Don't worry, we'll do a code blue or something to explain if we do.
All right, thank you. We'll miss you and welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
And a few things. Tom Billberger, 1000 River Road, a few things. Good luck to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you,
and your future endeavors. Few things here. First of all, your dissertation, Councilman Brennan, on plastics, you seem to be very impressed about what other towns and other states do. I don't think that's a very good premise. Worry about us, what we do. Whatever your feelings about plastics, just worry about here. Don't worry about California. That's 3,000 miles away. That's all I got to say about that. Councilman McGovern, about the swimming, the lifeguards and everything, you spoke about money.
Right.
Very big time. Everybody's excited about money all the time, big time. But you failed to listen to some of those guys as they spoke, or at least you didn't hear it, whatever, that were here the last couple of meetings, talking about the lifeguards. One big thing that they mentioned that you ignored or missed or whatever, is that they're having a hard time getting young people to pass the test. That's an important thing.
Sure.
Because if you have lifeguards, you'll be able to figure it out. That can't swim well enough to save somebody, that's your problem, not the money. That's a big problem, wouldn't you agree?
Obviously, it's a problem. You don't want a lifeguard that can't swim.
Right.
It's just, but what they were saying is the lifeguards that could swim were going to other towns because the other towns were paying more. And
But
I
this
just
is
wanted
the
to...
biggest problem. Finding people that are able to pass the test. Don't ignore that. That's very important.
You know, ironic...
Because if I'm out there and I get in trouble somehow, I want a guy that can swim to come out to help me.
Absolutely. Ironically, most of our lifeguards aren't even Belmar residents, and I'll explain why.
I don't care where they come from.
I know, but we would like to employ our Belmar residents. We have an ocean, we have a river, we have a marina, but our kids don't learn how to swim because we just go down to the beach and ride waves or something like that. The lifeguards that are getting hired are the lifeguards that grow up out of Belmar that have pools and they're on swim teams and stuff not. So I'm one of the few Belmar residents that grew up in Belmar that was able to pass the swim test. And I was one of the, I look around and this guy's from Old Bridge, this guy's from Jersey City, they're all over the place except for Belmar. That's one of the problems too, trying to get Belmar residents to swim, learn to swim well enough to pass the Belmar lifeguard test.
Let me move on to this thing about the potholes. We spoke about potholes today. Now, I would suggest, like on a night like tonight, where there is no snow to plow, that they don't run up and down the street at 30, 40 miles an hour with the plow down. You can see that all over the place, especially around the curbs, where they chew up the curbs. We pay for that, I guess, repairing the curbs as well. And the other thing that was mentioned about the police in the summertime having, too many police in the one area. That's a good point, I guess. Diversify again. We used to have little small police facilities around town. There used to be one on 16th and A for at least a couple of years anyway. Do that again. Now, if you don't know how, put together a little Butler building. If you don't know what that is, go to Camp Evans and look. From the old World War II. You get 2 guys for an hour and a half to throw the thing up, 3 or 4 places around the town, and everything will be fine. They'll be diversified. This stupid thing you want to put up, I guess it's already a done deal. The fix is in, to put it bluntly. It's going to happen. 5 stories in the town is not going to be good for anybody, but it's going to happen. And also, the idea that X amount of those people will be low income, because that's state law, I believe. Is that right? X amount of the project's got to be low income. So it'll be a real asset for the school and everything, I'm sure. So, but especially, not running up and down the street with the plow down when there's nothing to plow at 30, 40 miles an hour. You can hear them all night long. Give us a break here.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Sure. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mike Campbell, 7th Avenue, Belmar resident. I just want to say congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
From the DPW side and from a resident side, thank you for holding the line. Your leadership during Sandy was most admirable. I called it Kennedy-esque back then, and I stand by it. I think you brought the town back as a resident. I was always proud to have you as our mayor. As an employee, you've always treated us well, and you were always concerned. You were always at our buildings. You stopped by to address the men in the morning. I couldn't have asked for a better leader. I am very sorry to see you go, both as an employee and as a resident, but I wish you nothing but the best, and I'm sure Atlantic City will do very well having your leadership down there. Congratulations.
You're coming with me, right, Mike?
I got poplars to do first.
Talk now. Yes, sir. Yep.
Matt. Also.
Good evening, board. It's been a long time since I've been here.
Name and address, please.
Mark Bersham, West Belmar.
Mr. Mayor, do you pride yourself on what's going on in Belmar? And do you get involved with the town, the employees, so you know what's going on? So you pretty much know a lot of things.
I know, I'm sorry, what give a point?
Yeah, number one, everything to do with the revaluation is done, correct? It's been a while.
Okay.
One family recently got a letter within the last 6 to 8 weeks, signed by a town official, that said they made a mistake on the property, that they were hundreds of $1,000s higher than what they said they were. And I'm wondering, how did that come to be? And it only happened to one person, one property in the entire town that's around $400,000 higher now than they were when they did the reval.
Was it your property?
No, it was not. I'm just asking, do you know anything about
I don't know what you're talking about.
it? Okay.
It's not you.
It's, no, obviously, I don't. So nobody on the board knows anything about someone being reassessed 8 weeks ago and raised $400,000 on the property.
No one on the board assesses anyone.
That's true, but you run the town, and you're in control of all the officials that work for you.
That's not necessarily
It's
accurate.
not true. But again, do you have a point?
Well, what I was trying to get at, and I put in several open requests to find out what the approach was when you were doing the reval. No one could give me a piece of paper saying how they were doing the reval, but it turned out to be not the way it stated in the contract, but a different way, which surprised everybody and made things tough on a lot of people. I guess that's my point, is to bring up the fact that if the reval is done, how can 8 weeks ago someone get raised $400,000?
Can you leave that person's name and address with us so we can look into what you're talking about?
Sure. I'll be happy to.
Okay. Yes, let Colleen know.
You want me to say it in public or just
No,
write
no,
it down?
after the meeting, after the meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Dee Anderson, Terrace Road, Belmar. So I'm here as, at Brian McGovern's suggestion, following up from a planning board meeting last night about a piece of property that's being developed around my home, and some concerns that I and fellow local near me residents raised about the marina. I have one specific concern that if it were addressed would be very beneficial to me, and I know a lot of people who live probably within a quarter mile of the marina, and that is the backup beeper on the forklift that raises the boats in and out of the water. It's incessant, it's loud, it affects my quality of life and my ability to work. I work from home. I'm sure it affects a lot of other people too. I don't have to explain to you what that is. We've all experienced a backup beeper and how annoying it is. So imagine that pretty much 8 hours to 10 hours per day, you know, in your ear. That's my biggest problem. It's very specific, and I think that I also have a solution. From my research and from speaking with OSHA, it does not seem that a backup beeper is required on that piece of machinery. Now everyone says, oh, it's got to have backup beepers. But there's nothing that I have been able to find or OSHA could lead me to that actually states that. There's construction vehicles that require backup beepers. There's 2 or 3 classes. Construction vehicle is one that requires the backup beeper. Then there's general industry, There's nothing that says general industry requires that backup beeper. There's also marine industry. There is nothing that can be found that says it requires that backup beeper. So I would like to present you with something that says it doesn't require a backup beeper, but because it doesn't, there's nothing that actually states it doesn't require a backup beeper. However, there's been nothing found that says it does require a backup beeper from my research and my discussion with OSHA. If some safety device wants to be put in place, there are alternatives to backup beepers, because this is not an isolated incident. You know, this noise pollution from these kinds of beepers is rampant in our society, mostly from construction sites. This is a little unique situation. Backup camera is an alternative. Having someone else there who can scan the area is an alternative. And radar, Doppler is an alternative. And motion sensing equipment system is an alternative. So I think that this is a specific problem with this, and there are specific solutions to it. If it could be addressed, I think it would, I know it's solved much of my problem and would satisfy my issue with Marina, my main issue, and I think it would help the other people to feel better about it too. Because I know everyone's been talking about how that Marina has grown in volume, and that volume includes noise volume and other sorts of environmental pollution volumes. When that started, that was not an in-out service. It was just in once, at the beginning of the season, and out at the end of the season. So the fact that they do this in-out service is pretty unique, because I said when I do some research, I want to go armed with some solutions, you know. I couldn't find any other in-out service in the area. And in fact, they advertise their business that as such, you know, they're the only in-out service nearby. So first one, the only one I found was in, I think, Connecticut, or definitely up toward New England. So it's not a common thing, but it's a pervasive, persistent problem for those of us who live nearby. And that, let's face it, I mean, that noise must go up in the terrace even. It goes far, but I'm right next door, and I work from home, so it's a real problem for me. But I think there are real solutions.
Thank you. What we'll do is we'll talk with the owner and get back in touch with you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Sure. Thanks for coming tonight. Yes?
Tina Scott, Captain of the Belmar Police Department. On behalf of the police department, we would like to thank you for your years of support. Being an advocate for our police department has given us a great relationship between you and the police department. So we will miss you. Congratulations, good luck, and thank you again for everything you've done for us.
Get out of jail free card.
I just want to personally congratulate you. Thank you. And thank you for your commitment, your energy, and your leadership. I think you have made a great difference. I especially want to acknowledge like Malone and the pipe, which has helped so many people during flooding. I think that's been wonderful. I also want to thank the Public Works for the sidewalk, you know,
Center back, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, it's, thank you. And I will.
Thank you. With that, yes.
Hi, Louis Polito at 305 8th Avenue. I just want to congratulate you, Matt, for your new position. Wish you all the best. I've been here about 10 years in this town, and I can tell everybody here knows this town's come a long way since you become mayor. And we're all going to miss you when you go. Well, we do wish you the best of luck. I wish you the best of luck in all that you go. Thank you.